You're both real. You're not, neither of you are real. I don't know. It's like he just starts getting, a little, like, self-conscious and, like, he's unsure now because there's another version of him. And I think somewhere that kind of bothers him. Like, what if this guy's better than me? You know?
I think it boils down to also, like, the idea of, with the two transporter beams, like, I think anybody would question, does this mean I'm not the real one? Does that mean the real one didn't make it off? I think Riker 1 is more like, does this mean I'm not the real Riker? Mm-hmm. Does that mean the real Riker was actually stuck on that science station the whole time? Have I just been a copy of the real guy?
But they'd never know, right?
No. That's what bothered me a little bit on this episode. It was like, I don't think they delved into Riker's feelings and why he was so, they speculated a little bit why he could be upset and why he lashed out and was, I don't remember him being this much of a prick, to be honest, but he was super mean in this one. Mm-hmm. And it played a lot more on Riker 2's adjustment back into, I guess, civilization, because it's a starship, but I was like, I struggled even towards the end of this to be like, why is he acting like this? Is he questioning? How is he questioning this? Is he just, oh my God, there's another subordinate that I need to make sure he obeys my commands? I had a lot of trouble understanding exactly which emotion drove him to act like that.
Mm-hmm. Like
I'm sorry, Brooke, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we don't know if he's having that whole thing where he remembers how he was, so he knows he's gonna push his own buttons. You know what I mean? Like
I felt more like it was, this guy he's me, and he's gonna see all the decisions I decided to make, and he's not gonna, my old me is not gonna approve of what my current me has decided to do with their life.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I would have, the conversation that we get towards the end of the episode between Worf and Data, where Worf kind of expounds on what you're saying, Eric, that like, it's like seeing your worst qualities displayed like right in front of you. And I think that would have been better if that came from a conversation between Riker 1 and Riker 2, or even Riker 1 and Troy, or Riker and Guinan. Like, that conversation, I think, would have been better if someone could have pulled that out of Riker. If he could have voiced that, I think that would have been a better resolution or a better explanation of his feelings.
That Guinan would have been a really great character to have in there. Have her, like, have a conversation with Riker 2 as he's trying to readjust, and she can kind of psychologically break him down a little bit, and then Riker 1 come in, and she could make comparisons and be kind of the audible narrative for what was really going on between the two of them.
Yeah, I love Guinan. That would have been great. But like they didn't. Okay, let's jump to that piece with Worf and Data. Like, Data asks Worf, if you come across another version of yourself, how would you feel? Would you get along with yourself? And Worf is like, no, I'm hard to get along with. And I'm like, I feel that.
Yeah.
But like, I would have liked it if it had been, some other way with the actual Rikers around. But I did like this because it also goes with Data's wanting to be human. So he's asking these questions to get more of an idea of how to be like a real sentient being, not just, a robot that's sort of, an android that sort of can have thoughts and feelings and all that kind of thing, but not real feelings. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that. Do you all think that maybe they thought it wasn't enough room for that to actually have, Riker and Riker break it down, either with the mediary, someone in between or not, or what do you guys think?
I just feel like this, for some reason, wanted to like focus more attention on how Riker used to be prior to going into Starfleet and what drove him to be in the position he is, because he was put his career first and all of that stuff. And this is like almost like a snapshot of his past without being a flashback. But it didn't. Yeah. It's just weird, because if they would have gotten rid of all the mission of them going back down and collecting the data, that they probably could have like just used. This could have been just a dialogue heavy episode that didn't have any extraordinary things other than being on the ship, and they could have probably told a more compelling story rather than do things like that, because that did run them out of time. It did give them the opportunity to discover some things, but yeah, it just didn't seem like they had the time because of some of that stuff.
Well, with that scene, it's like, you know, they went twice, and the second time they went down, it's like, okay, we see Riker going, and then they fix this radiation problem so that they can get to the core, and then we have danger on a bridge, and nothing. We don't see what else happens. We don't see if they get along or not to do it. We just know that they did it.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to focus. I think they definitely tried to take an episode that could have been more dialogue heavy and inject this sort of, this like, what's the right word? Like this danger aspect to it, right? We've only got these 3 chances to go down and get the thing, and then when we go down, it's dangerous, and we gotta go into the rocks. No, the bridge collapsed. Like, they did a lot. I know, they did a lot with that stuff. And of course, there's a huge plot line or a huge storyline about Troy. Like, you can't bring back Riker from 8 years ago and never address how that Riker feels about Deanna. Like, that Riker, right, is, as we learn in the episode, he said, I only made it through because I kept thinking about you and how we were supposed to meet on Risa. And like, in his mind, he never stopped loving her in the way that he did at that time. And now this other Will Riker made a choice, and we could definitely talk about it's a real, I'm trying not to say a naughty word here, but it's a real bad move. It's a real crappy move.
If you want to, you'll get phasered. It's fine.
Okay. It's a real dick move of Riker to basically just not show up. Right? Because that's how their relationship started to drift apart. They were supposed to meet on Risa, and he just didn't show up. She went. He didn't even tell her ahead of time, I'm not going to make it. He just didn't go. And it's, there's like 8 bajillion ways to contact somebody in the Star Trek universe. And he used none of them to tell her, I'm not going to go. And then they just drifted apart. And I think what's really interesting about this episode is we really get to see Deanna's point of view on that. We kind of, Riker has talked about it before, about how he made a choice and this and that. But we, for the first time, get to see that, like, this really broke her heart. Like, it took her a long time to get over it. And to get to a place where she could, be friends with this person. And now here comes Riker too, who is like, I've just been thinking about you for 8 years. And does she get a second chance here too? She kind of gets a second chance too. And I and then he ends up kind of being a dick all over again, so, is William Riker just not a nice guy? Maybe. So it's definitely, I get why they insert the danger part of it, because otherwise this is just a very talky episode, and it's all about feelings and stuff. And, people want to see phasers and stuff, and yeah, so we got that too. But, I wish there would have been time to put in this conversation that we talked about of either Riker 2 and Guinan, or Riker 1 and Riker 2, something like that, just to really expound on what he was feeling.
I feel like if they didn't have the, scavenger hunt, the, note scavenger hunt for Troy, that would have taken some out, because They could have just had him meet with her and give her the present. It didn't have to have her walking around and, because I think we got the idea that she liked him and that they, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like even without that bit, I don't know, I guess they just wanted to show the difference between now Riker and, like, 8 years ago kind of Riker. Even more. Like, he's not just a ladies' man. Hey there. He's, he's this ladies' man. With an apostrophe, not IES.
Right. But I think the point here too is that Riker 2 sees Riker 1's decision to pursue his career over a relationship with Deanna as a big mistake. Like, and he even tells him that I wouldn't make the same mistake of not being with Deanna. Like, in his mind, that whole decision was a mistake. And I think Riker 2 looks at it as like, I can fix this. She can still be with me if I pursue her and show her how much I still love her.
Yeah, I thought that this episode was going to teach us that if we look back at those mistakes, we can make a decision to go in a separate direction, just like you're saying. But at the end, it kind of flips that to where we can recognize that we made that mistake, but we are still compelled to be who we are, and it's whether we give in to that or not that's going to define who we are. And ultimately, he does give in to that. So that's like, off of the decisions he makes at the end, that's the only thing that really reflects back that Riker, or the original Riker, is not necessarily a bad guy. He's just compelled to do what he did because his other self made the same mistakes with hindsight. But the way they told that story at the end didn't really make it feel like that. Like, at the end of this, I was kind of like, oh, they're both dicks.
Yeah. I mean, and even Riker 1 warns her and says, if this guy had come back, he's, ask yourself if it would have ended any differently. And I think the person, honestly, who grows the most in this episode is Troy. I think she's the one who actually has the most character growth, because at the end of the day, he says to her, Riker 2 says to her, if we get married, I can bring family on board my new ship in 6 months. And she's like, yeah, you said that before. And, he's like, no, but like, I can mean it. And
I mean it this time, for real.
But this time I mean it, yeah. But she's the one who decides not to be with him. She's the one who decides not to leave the Enterprise and go with him. And I think she does it in a much better way than he did it, because she at least tells him that she's not going, and she chooses her own happiness on board the Enterprise instead of risking it on this Riker, because Riker 2 could just as easily turn out and not just decide to pursue a career over a relationship with her. And I mean, I give her total credit for that, for being strong enough to walk away from this man who she's pretty sure will just end up hurting her again.
Hey, and then she ends up, she dates Worf, and then she ends up marrying Riker 1 later anyway, so whatever. And she still got to have her career and wear a regular uniform because, she's done her officer training and all that kind of stuff, so.
Brooke, I think you and I both know that women cannot be sexy and smart. So because she's smart now, she can't be sexy anymore.
Okay.
I think you would have learned that by now after living under the patriarchy for this long.
Right.
I'm trying to make a joke about how if I had a transporter malfunction when I was like 13 or 14 and went into a different direction, that version of myself would come back going, hey, I've been stuck in your dad's bedroom, the second bedroom at your dad's house watching reruns of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and